We tend to think, or at least most of us tend to think, that when nations, including these United States, make public statements or take policy positions, these statements or positions are based on moral considerations. Actually, I've become convinced that this is not the case. A recent article by Josie Wales on the website known as libertybalance.com recently brought this home to me. Quoting government sources, Wales points out that the U.S. national debt is now $17.7 trillion, and that this represents an increase of over $1 trillion in the last year alone. It also represents an increase of more than $7 trillion since Obama allegedly took office as president. Racking up debt like this is, of course, unsustainable. So the question presents itself, how has it been sustained this long, and can it possibly continue? Well, since the United States don't produce much of anything anymore except worthless currency, why do other countries continue to accept it? How does the U.S. economy stay afloat when it has run multi-billion-dollar trade deficits for decades? How is it that the U.S. holds such a disproportionate amount of the world's wealth when 70% of the economy is consumer-based? Well, briefly stated, it's about oil. Actually, it's about oil and the dollar. In the modern era, says Wales, fossil fuels make the world go round, and as long as the world needs oil and as long as oil is sold only in U.S. dollars, there will be a demand for dollars. Oil has been traded only in U.S. dollars for about 60 years or so, but that may be changing. In fact, back in 2000, a guy named Saddam Hussein announced his decision to switch Iraq's oil sales off the dollar to euros. As you may remember, that decision didn't work out so well for him. More recently, we hear saber rattling by U.S. leaders and by their media puppets against Russia, China, Iran, and Syria. Could it be that these countries have offended us morally? Well, the very idea of a nation offending the morality of these United States seems implausible, doesn't it? After all, can a country that has systematically slaughtered 60 million of its own children really be capable of moral outrage? Isn't it likely that the causes for our diplomatic and military excursions lie elsewhere? Well, if you've never heard of it, you should examine a series of documents known as the Project for a New American Century. These documents make the case for the purposeful demonization of certain countries in the Middle East for the purpose of clearing the way for their political takeover, and the confiscation of their resources, and the continuation of the dominance of the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Now, in this brief message, I'm not trying to categorically establish these motives as fact. Rather, along with you, I am searching for an understanding of American foreign policy that explains our country's propensity for numerous and continuous foreign wars. I just have a hard time swallowing the naive notion that our government, which abuses and murders its own citizens, is so morally outraged by the abuses committed by other governments against other people. It seems more logical and reasonable that our government's official outrage is driven by the desire to keep the almighty dollar from falling off its throne. This is Michael Anthony Peroutka for Institute on the Constitution, bringing you the American View.